We're here for another episode of Mael Time Podcast. I'm joined in person today with the man, the myth, the legend, Hezi Nehama, beautiful wife, Evna. Having an amazing time talking about experience throughout. We're here the day after Trump just gave his unbelievable speech. I'd say the greatest speech that a president has ever given on behalf of the Jewish people. And I'm curious, as an Israeli and as someone who's been outspoken about everything that's going on in Gaza, what were you thinking when you heard President Trump?
Wow. First of all, I'm happy to be here. First of all, I am a professional officer, and I believe we can do our missions according to the military principles, and we can defeat Hamas. We can do whatever we need to do in Gaza. And what Trump just said yesterday, it's about political issues. I think he writes, because I was in the Gaza Strip for the past 30 years, and I saw the citizens of Gaza, and it's not real life. They desperate. They don't have what to do. They don't love life. Then they don't have a ruler that want to help them. And I think we have to change the situation. And the things that Trump just said, people from the left, they don't like it. But this is the truth. It is the only option for Gaza to take another course and a different way of life for the people. And I think it could work.
You're saying it's a political issue, not a military issue, as we discussed when I had you on before. And again, I think it's different when we're having a conversation face to face versus over Zoom or something like that. And we talked about this. There is a political aspect to the army. So it doesn't matter what Yoav Gallant or Bibi or even Herzl Levy said publicly. There's a reality of how they acted privately and how the army actually went about things. And we can agree, I think, that the army didn't actually push for a complete defeat of the enemy, right? You'd say that?
Yes, there's a huge gap within the IDF between the commander in the field, from the rank of the soldier till the division commander, and with general staff. In the general staff, what happened in the past 20 years is the process its agenda from the very far left, liberal, progressive agenda that influenced the army. And in the army, we don't use anymore the word to kill the terrorists. It's to naturalize terrorists because it sounds better, politically correct. In the IDF, we don't build the idea we can defeat Hamas. We can eliminate it. And it's many things like this that infiltrated the IDF in the past 20, 30 years. And now we have to restore, we have to bring back commanders like Chico Tamir and like Ofer Winter and Shmuel Zakai and others that believe in the idea that we can defeat terror, we can change the situation.
Right, since we last spoke, Eyal Zamir was elected or chosen to be the chief of staff. We'll see if I think it passed already in the Knesset, perhaps didn't. But what are your thoughts on Eyal Zamir as the next chief of staff?
First of all, I think he has a lot of nisayon, experience, and he's a very talented commander. I'm not sure if he's the most decisive commander and the most creative commander, but I think the fact that he does not belong to the paratrooper heritage that was in the army for the past 40 years, and the fact that he and the defense of minister, they made principal.
They have the same expectations. Yeah. They're on the same page, you're saying?
Yeah, they are on the same page. And I think the most important thing is who will sit around the table in this general staff. Commanders like Yaniv Asor and David Zini and Roman Goffman will sit there. I'm sure we will see many changes in the IDF and the way the IDF is fighting. But if still the same commander that we saw till these days, it won't work.
And what changes exactly do you want to see? I know that there's been some discussion about the rules of engagement and having to shoot at terrorists' legs and waiting till the last second or something to that sort. If they're actually about to kill someone as opposed to taking care of them preemptively, what are the things you hope to see changed?
First of all, I think we have to change the method of fighting in Gaza. We won't achieve victory with method of raids, and in order to come to fight and to leave the area. We can't leave. We have to occupy the area. We have to conquer it. We have to clean the Hamas from this area, and then we can decide about the next phase. This is the most important thing in order to achieve victory. We cannot afraid of military rule in Gaza. We have to do it for some time, for I don't, for 1 year, for 2 years, but we have to take the control. This is the only way with Hamas. Otherwise, we got to this deal in these very bad conditions because we didn't defeat him in the past.
When did we give up on actually defeating them? When do you think that something changed in Gaza where
Very fast in January 24, when the IDF decided to send Division 36 to the north, I understood they don't want to defeat Hamas. They think in the phase of raids you can do it again and again, and we saw the pictures, very bad pictures, when all the terrorists came from the tunnels and again took control of Hamas, and of course the humanitarian aid, the control in the humanitarian aid. We don't have problems with the humanitarian aid, but you can't afford the Hamas to control the humanitarian aid. So
what was the thinking behind moving Division 36?
and they were worried about the north. They can understand it, but chief of staff he decided to stop with the how do you say it? How would you say it? הלחימה בעצימות גבוהה. High intensity fighting in Gaza, and to go to a lower extent and to fight in the raid method. And it's not enough. It's not good enough.
The thing that I don't understand as an observer is if you knew as a chief of staff that you had the beeper and pager operation at your disposal and you knew that you could eliminate many thousands of combatants from Hezbollah and you could eliminate a lot of the missiles from the air and you had such good intelligence that you could actually do those things preemptively. I don't understand why you would move Division 36 based on that description, because it seems to me that they would have had time to organize other fighters to get ready for the north.
I don't know exactly, and I don't know what the intelligence said those days. We're talking about a year ago. And again, no one is a bad guy. Chief of staff, he had a lot of rights, and he is a good guy. But I think that he holds a very progressive agenda, and he doesn't want the IDF to occupy the land. And he speaks about the fact that we need 5 divisions to go, and it's nonsense. We can do it with much lower numbers, and we know we can do it. There are some another considerations. I'm sure that he sent the Division 36 not because he wanted to do it. He had good reasons why to do it. But I think that the most important thing was to eliminate Hamas. You have to leave enough division to do it, and you have to choose a method like we gave the idea of the general's plan. And I hope now, after what Trump just said, according to the fact that I'm not sure we will see a second phase of this deal, or the hostage deal, because it's kind of impossible to reach the second phase. As we know, the Hamas, they don't know where all the hostages are. They won't give up at least some of them because this is the insurance for their entire life.
Survival, right?
Yes. So I don't think we see the second phase completed, and we will have to relaunch the war. And I think the general's plan could be a good way to.
So the general's plan has been portrayed in the media as some sort of unrealistic and messianic, crazy solution? What is the general's plan for those who don't
It's
fully understand it?
it's very simple. The IDF till last week, he surrounded all the northern part of Gaza. I'm saying last week because the corridor evacuation from the Netzarim corridor canceled this surrounding of the northern part of Gaza. But it's very, very easily, we can do it again. We can take the Netzarim corridor, and then you have a situation where all the northern part, it's 1/3 from Gaza Strip, it's encircled by IDF forces. Then you have to evacuate all the citizens from this part, from this area. You have to open humanitarian corridors, and you have to send the population to the south. And then you can put a siege. We forgot this word. It's very, very basic in the military study to speak about siege. You have to put a siege. You won't give them water. It's only Hamas, of course. Yes, the citizens went to the south, and then you have only Hamas. You won't give them food. You won't give them money. I believe that after 1 month, 2 months, they surrounded, and then you can occupy the territory. You can clean it, and then you can decide if you want. So this is something that the cabinet and the prime minister have to decide. One option is to leave it like this. A second option, to bring back the citizens from the south to the north. But now you can give American company or Emirates or some other ideas to be in power and to give the humanitarian aid and to control the area, and there is no Hamas. I think that one of the biggest mistakes is to speak today about the day after. People like to speak about the day after. The day after, it's not relevant till you destroy Hamas. And in the TV and radio, they ask all day long, what about the day after? What about the day after? The Prime Minister doesn't want to speak about, yes, because now we have to defeat Hamas. This is the current day. Don't speak about the day after. After we defeat Hamas, you will see some forces emerge and give another alternative. But now there is no another alternative till you destroy Hamas. We saw what
Well,
happened.
I do think that there is some room to say that you do need to have a day after, and the day after is saying you're not going to let people be raised to try to kill
Of course,
Jewish people.
of course.
I
But
guess that's a
people ask,
political thing. But
who is going to control the Gaza the day after? This is something we can't decide now, because no one, Hamas, won't let anyone to come in power unless you
remove
destroy
them.
Hamas. Once you remove Hamas, you will see a lot of options will rise.
So I want to push you on one thing you said before, which is you said good guy, bad guy, and I'm not talking about specific people, but as a leader in the army, a lot of people, they read the newspaper, they get the notifications about soldiers that have fallen. How does one view repeated raids in Jabalia or in Rafah in the context of what is morally acceptable for the risk of the soldiers in the IDF? Because there are certainly some families that have actually said this and have been pretty upset with the concept that their child might have fallen in Jabalia the third time, and then the IDF turned around a week later and left, and then they're sending a raid in the fourth time, or that might be in Sajaiya. How is one to understand the responsibility of commanders and soldiers risking their lives for something that achieves a real sustainable goal? Because there's some people that would see that and say, well, that soldier died for nothing because we just gave it back a week later.
I won't say for nothing. People died, and we achieved a lot of tactics achievements, not the strategic achievements we should have achieved. But and I agree. I think it's immoral to fight in this way of fighting. I think one of the biggest problems that we have that because the chief of staff and the southern command commander, they have the very heavy issue of the hostages. They feel that they're responsible to the fact that the enemy has many hostages, and I'm speaking mainly about the kids and the women. And because of this, the decision that they made, it's not logic decisions. It's a lot of,
emotional
decisions. And this is a big problem.
I mean, how do you make? Wait, but like I'm sitting here, right? There was an incident which I was very closely in touch with some of the Plugot that were involved, and we're talking about the Agos soldiers in training in the beginning of April, and they walked into an ambush in Khan Yunis. They were still in training. They had horrible equipment, and they fell. And then the next day, they said, "Oh, we're pulling them out, and we're reevaluating some of the, sending people in while they're still in training." Of course, now people are still being used because there's not enough soldiers. But like, how does the Jewish person who sees this understand that there's? You said they didn't fall for nothing, but what did they fall for? I mean, like, what? They, obviously, it's in Hashem's hands, but like, what? How do we understand? We're trying to find like strategic meaning in it. What was the strategic meaning?
I agree. This is the reason why I started this, forum. I established this forum, and I'm a lot of PR and to open a public discussion about this issue, because I think it's a huge mistake the way we fight. But in the end, as you said, first of all, we have Hashem, Baruch Hashem, and second of all, people don't die for free for nothing. They died, but they killed Hamas terrorists, and they helped to rescue some of the hostages, etc. And I think that we have to change the way of fighting. I think the Hamas has to understand that if we continue, once we take another path and we continue, we will eliminate him. Then he will come with his ideas and he will give us a deal in a much better position. I'm not against a deal.
Right.
Sometimes
you're just saying you're not leaving Hamas there.
Right? Yes.
And there's a lot that was made of friendly fire incidents and things like that. What was the issue with friendly fire the first 4 to 6 months of the war, as you see it? Was it as
so? It's very hard to fight especially in a place like Gaza. It's not open area. It's buildings. It's a lot of citizens. It's very hard to fight. As I said, I have a history of more than 20 years in the Gaza Strip, and people are nervous and they take decisions. And this is a war. This is the presence of war. We don't like it, but
it's part of war.
Yes, it's part of war. And again, I remember a story. Father of Netanel Amos. He's a rabbi, his father, Rav Amos Netanel. His son, Jonathan, was killed during the Oferet Yitzukah. Not defensive shield. The war in 2008. Castle, yes. And it was a tank that killed his son. And immediately he went to the radio and he said, "I forgive the one that shot in my son. I want him to come to my house, and I want to remind you, Iris Chaim, you know the story with Iris Chaim, of the three, yes, I'm sure you remember, the three hostages that came to the soldiers, and they were
absolutely right.
Yes, and the soldiers killed them. And immediately, Iris Chaim, she's a hero. She said, we forgive you. We know it's a war. There's nothing to do. We don't blame you on anything. Wow, she's amazing mother. This is a part of the mothers and the wives and the family that we have in the IDF. And I think you should interview my wife.
That's the next one.
Okay, so this is the time.
Yeah, and I'll say this. It's hard dealing, when especially Jewish people that feel so connected, they feel very involved in trying to see behind the lines on these things. There are deep issues, and people are always sitting there wondering what's going on. So and I appreciate you providing that insight. With the forum and with creating an alternative discussion, what kind of messages are you receiving from reservists now? What's the mood? How are people responding to events on the ground?
Amazing. People just call me every day, send messages. They want to strengthen me. They want to help me. They want not about me. The forum.
The concept of having an open discussion.
Donations. People that want to go to TV and help. And I can tell you, even from within the general staff, there are some generals that speak with me, and they say, "You have to continue. Otherwise, we'll lose the war. You have to continue. You have to put a lot of pressure. You have to go to the parliament and the prime minister and the cabinet." And this is very, very important for me to know that I'm going in the, it's not easy to attack and to criticize chief of staff and a few other generals, but I have to tell the truth. This is what I believe. And, I have a lot of respect, and they're good people, as I said before, but the truth should be said in a very clear way.
There's also a competition in media, right? Because certainly individuals they tend to be more progressive. They're very outspoken in their ads. They're saying that the army failed on October 7th, horrible people, they need to be held accountable and all these things. And they're very loud. And I happen to agree with maybe 80% of what they're saying of that. But there does need to be a counterbalance and actually having competing ideas and not just having a one-track mind. And you think about the hostages. I'm in touch with a number of families, and on both sides, you have some people who said, under no circumstance will you sign a deal with a terrorist organization to free my child. But that doesn't get any attention because the forum is pushing one way of solving the issue. And it's also motivated pretty much openly about a dislike for Benjamin Netanyahu. So it's very hard if you're someone who is not of that persuasion to get your voice heard. And I think it's very important. And I was talking about it with someone yesterday who very much loves Bibi Netanyahu. And I said, not that I'm here trying to criticize the prime minister, but I'm sharing the Forum Agvura. I'm sharing the question about are we actually winning and what's going on, because I think it's important that you have a voice that is counterbalancing the questions from the other side. And I think that you're doing a tremendous service by asking these kinds of questions and providing a way that people are having a real discussion. It's very interesting to me. You see, there's the book Startup Nation, which is talking about the Israeli ingenuity and how Israelis are so creative and outspoken, and they don't take anything kind of sitting down. They're always going to stand up. I had a Magad, very prominent Magad in the army. He's in pictures all the time and everything. I went and visited with him. He's missing hundreds of helmets. They don't have any drones. Their ceramic is expired, everything like this. And okay, I'm taking notes. We're going to do the whole thing. 2 days later, he's in a picture with Hezi Nehama. So,
and he says everything is okay.
He says everything's fine. So there's something that's going on culturally, and I recommend everyone to check out the book from Guy Chazut, because it's not some lunatic in the United States who's screaming for no reason. This is a brigadier general who knows what's going on, and you see that for the amazing ingenuity that happens in Israeli technology, there is a culture where sometimes people just are quiet and they say, yeah, beseder, and everything's fine, and it's not fine. And you do need to have a discussion about these things. And I think that the Jewish people are better off if people like yourself are standing up and actually having these conversations. And it doesn't mean that you have to be right about everything. It's just that you can have a discussion and a counterbalance. And it's not that you're some insane, crazy person. And you look what happened with, and this is like a third rail, but you look what happened with Mayor Kahana. You're banned from the Knesset. You are basically every single story saying this guy's essentially a terrorist. He's crazy. Do you know what I did at the start of this war when people were saying? I picked up his books and I said, I want to read what he actually said. And what he said was a lot of times less loaded than what President Trump said yesterday. Because he's basically saying that if you have an education system that's, take Hebron, that's being set on killing Jews, or saying the people in Eli are occupying ancient Palestine, how are you supposed to live next to these people? But you can't even have a discussion because every single thing is labeled as some insane, right-wing, anti-humanity person. So I think that by having a real face and a discussion about it is a huge service.
Mm-hmm. Did you hear about the Overton window?
Yes.
I think this is a part of the what you said about Kahana, for example. When he spoke about the idea, it wasn't within the scope of the Overton window.
Correct.
But today, Trump brought it to be in the...
Right, and again, it's one of these things where take just the lens of children, Arab children and Israeli children. You have Arab children that, if nothing changes, are going to be brought up in a culture that has terrorists on the wall. They're being taught that this is a hero, and you need to be like him. You have your friends will have, some of their fathers are getting stipends because they killed people, they murdered people, and they're getting stipends in jail. And you're going to be taught through a disgusting education system in which Palestine is all of Israel. And then you have Israeli kids who are basically saying there's a decent chance that a couple kids in your kindergarten class might get severely injured or die because they're going to have to defend the Jewish people against these very intense threats. And that's just not a sustainable status quo. We have to shake things up and have a discussion. I don't think that's radical to say that we're trying to help make sure that that's not just the situation forever. I don't think that's radical. And clearly something has to change within the military doctrine, because what was happening did not work.
Yes.
I want to conclude by asking you, what do you think the timeline looks like in what's happening in Judea and Samaria? Obviously, you live in Eli, and there's hundreds of murders that were just released. What exactly is going on there, and what do you think the next 6 to 12 months looks like?
I think, first of all, we have to differentiate between Judea and Samaria as general to what's going on now in the northern part of the Shomron. North Samaria, it's a different, it's like two different areas. What happened in the past 3-4 years in the north of the Shomron, that the IDF let the PA to handle the situation and to try to control in the Jenin refugee camp and the Tulkarem. But of course, it's part of the conception. They will do the job instead of us. No chance. And now what happened, that we have to take control, and we know these days it's a very long operation that the Prime Minister of Defense declared that we won't leave the Jenin refugee camp, and it's a huge declaration. It's something very significant. We should think about it. For 20 years, they told us, no, you can't stay here. And no, if there is enemy that wants to kill me, I'll stay here. And I eliminate them day after day after day. And I think that Minister of Defense brought few changes in the way IDF is acting, and I'm sure that's what I said before, that I think once he and the Chief of Staff are same, and how.
But in a positive way, because when we spoke before, you said that Gallant and Herzl were same, but not in a good way.
Yes, so. You're right. But now, according to his agenda, it's very important to remember this is a political echelon, and he decides what we should do. The idea of the society in Israel, they chose the Minister of Defense, and he ordered the idea of how to act in the field. This is the idea of the democracy, not that you Chief of Staff and you know how it's right to fight. And although if you think differently from the Prime Minister or others, you will vote the idea to occupy the territory or to do other things. This is what we saw in the past year. So I think now we should concentrate on the northern part of the Samaria. We should reduce the flames that became very high in the past years. We should reduce it, and then we have, a terror in a level that we can live with. If you speak about the far future, so we have to rethink about the position of the PA. I'm not sure they can, in the way they behave now, when they pay terrorist families to kill Jews, it's something we can't afford, and we have to change the way we accept it. We can't accept it anymore. But we have to remember that we can't fight all 7 arenas parallel and to win all of them in the same time. We have huge problems now with Iran. I hope, with the help of God and with the help of Trump, that we will attack in Iran in the near future and eliminate the creators and the things that we should do. And then we can go to Judea and Samaria. This will be the last arena, hopefully, that then we can change the situation, strategic change, and not only
Small raids.
Yes.
A complete change. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope that we can stay in touch and continue to bring alternative perspectives about what's going on and give a true update in terms of what's going on from a plurality of viewpoints. And I really appreciate it. And good luck here in Miami.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Thank you.